Welcome to the new Workology Go Podcast. In just under 5 minutes, we'll get you the HR and workplace news you need before you start your day 2 times a week. Get ready, get set, and go with the new Workology Go Podcast.
Here are today's HR and workplace news headlines from the Workology Go Podcast. I'm Jessica Miller-Merrill. This podcast is sponsored by HSA Bank. Maybe you've heard about blockchain, or maybe you haven't. But it's a new technology that is quietly embedding itself in human resources and recruitment. Yes, let's add another technology to the long list in human resources. If you aren't familiar with tech like machine learning and artificial intelligence, think about blockchain. It's here. I implore you to take a free course from Stanford, read a book, or take a look at all the resources we have on the Workology site on this topic. Back to blockchain. I'll talk about how and why in a minute, but first I want to give you some stats on its potential and its use. 90% of European and North American banks were exploring blockchain in 2018. The global blockchain technology market is estimated to accumulate $20 billion in revenue by 2024. Blockchain can reduce 30% of a bank's infrastructure costs. I find it interesting how one of the most conservative industries, the financial sector, is really digging into blockchain, which makes me think that another conservative industry, human resources, could really benefit from this technology. Today's featured story is from Blockchain Expert, and it is simply titled Blockchain and Human Resources. I'll link to the article in the transcript of the Workology Go podcast episode over on Workology.com. The Harvard Business Review describes blockchain as a quiet revolution. I wanted you to understand this quiet revolution a bit better, which is why I got down and dirty with blockchain expert Dan Nichols from a recent Workology podcast episode about how blockchain can be used in human resources.
So the blockchain side of it is really about that technology helps to automate economies, so that the kind of the scale of things is to say it's the right solution where you're trying to coordinate activities between multiple, often competing entities, and that's the big challenge you've got with this world of recruiting is that employers, the greatest asset, most expensive asset, most important asset are people, and so there's high competition between organizations around the people, and what employers hate to do is to train people that are only going to leave and go work for somebody else, right? So there's a lot of sort of turfism in there. You can find employers that are in completely different industries that might work together, but you really have to get, especially today with the rising of technology and the massive, rapid shift of need for people to gain new skills, advance and transition in skills. There's a need for greater collaboration, and blockchain is one of the few things that does that because it gives us the ability to manage the privacy of individual information, to manage the safety and the security of this massive amount of data that's out there, so that it isn't used in the wrong kind of way, because you can set kind of contracts in place and you can, I guess, establish this sort of economic agreements between organizations that this is how it's going to work, and that it becomes very visible and very clear that this is how it's working. In today's world, it's just literal chaos. The systems that you have in place are really built around the idea that it should be really inefficient because they can make more money off of inefficiency of people having to apply to many different organizations, and organizations having to re-recruit over and over and over and over again for the same kind of people and finding the same people. That inefficiency is how the system works and how it makes money today. And I think there's entirely different models that would work way better for everybody and could still be monetized, right, by organizations that are looking to do that. But it does require a technology capable of establishing rules and working off of rules that I think gets employers that might compete with each other more comfortable about working together. The ways that we've been able to find, at least initially, is around the issues of inclusion around certain populations that or groups of people that employers can kind of agree to work with. And so that would work around or work together for on behalf of. So veterans are one of those, individuals with disabilities would be another of those populations. And so I think the first forays of real advancement in utilizing these technology in the HR world around the diversity inclusion initiatives that are out there that are most open to taking the steps necessary to kind of recreate this world and how it works.
From our featured resource on Blockchain Expert, they see the use case for HR happening in a number of different areas, including data management, data verification like background checks and employment verification, and helping ease up auditing and compliance, which I think is fantastic. We could all use a little more secure data in our lives. However, there is no official word for or against blockchain and HR from the Department of Labor, Homeland Security, or the OFCCP. When it comes to employee data and candidate records, that isn't surprising considering how new blockchain is and how innovative the technology is. Blockchain in HR is still in its infancy, but it is worth educating yourself because in the next 18 to 24 months, you are really going to see blockchain, blockchain, blockchain. It'll be all over HR tech and all the conferences, on all the marketing of all the HR tech things. We have you covered right now, getting you started and familiar with blockchain basics for HR and recruiting on the Workology Go podcast.
With health savings accounts, flexible spending accounts, health reimbursement arrangements, COBRA, and commuter benefits, HSA Bank is simplifying the health account experience for over 35,000 employers and 2.7 million members alike, inspiring everyone to own their health. Learn more at hsabank.com.
And that's this episode of the Workology Go podcast, sponsored by HSA Bank. We're your go-to for HR and workplace news. I'm Jessica Miller Merrill. Thank you for listening.
To learn more about the Workology Go podcast, subscribe to us on Apple, Google, and Stitcher. Our podcast is also available on Alexa and Google Home. Learn more at workology.com/Go podcast and access this episode's resources, links, and reports for more information.